to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out.
This is spending his Halloween in a tizzy over new allegations involving his marriage. Maybe it's time to break out that Halloween candy a bit early. This is a fun story. Happy Halloween and welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish, sporting my goth look for the day. I hope you all have your costumes ready for tonight. And before I begin, I want to quickly address a question sent to me by one of our viewers named Victoria.
Okay, so let me ask you something real quick. What happens when the guy who's supposed to be next in line for the White House, the one everybody keeps saying might run in 2028, what happens when his entire personal life just explodes on social media? Like, not in a normal way. In the most awkward, embarrassing, absolutely brutal way possible. Because that's exactly what's happening to J.D. Vance right now. And I mean right now. Like, within the last 48 hours. This man has gone from rising star in the Republican Party to basically the punchline of every political joke on the internet. We're talking trending hashtags. We're talking millions of views. We're talking leaked audio that makes you want to hide under a blanket from secondhand embarrassment. And honestly, if you thought political scandals couldn't get any weirder in 2025, well, buckle up because this one's going to blow your mind. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priests who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can.
And here's the kicker. This isn't some random conspiracy theory cooked up in somebody's basement. This is real audio, real photos, real statements from Vance himself. And it's all coming together in the most spectacular train wreck you could possibly imagine. So what actually happened? Well, buckle up, because this story has everything. Secret audio recordings, a viral hug that broke the internet, religious drama, marriage speculation, and a hashtag that basically wrote itself. We're talking about hashtag JD Vance divorce, which, by the way, trended nationally for 2 straight days. 2 full days of nonstop discussion, debate, memes, and total chaos across every social media platform you can think of. Let me paint the picture for you. October 30th, 2025, JD Vance shows up at a Turning Point USA event at the University of Mississippi. Pretty standard political appearance, right? Wrong. Because while he's there, cameras catch him hugging Erica Kirk. Now, if you don't know who that is, she's the widow of Charlie Kirk's predecessor at Turning Point USA. And this wasn't just like a polite handshake or a quick side hug. We're talking full embrace, arms wrapped around each other. The kind of hug that makes people go, wait, what's happening here? The kind of hug that instantly makes people screenshot and start group chats. And the internet? Oh man, the internet went absolutely nuclear. We're talking fireworks, explosions, the whole 9 yards. Within hours. And I mean hours. A New York Times author posted on X predicting that Vance would announce his divorce and remarry by 2026. That single post? Millions of views. Millions. People started sharing it everywhere. TikTok exploded. Twitter was on fire. Everyone had an opinion. Your grandmother probably saw it. Your coworkers were talking about it at the water cooler. This thing spread like wildfire. But here's where it gets even crazier. Because at the exact same time this photo is going viral, leaked audio drops. And I'm not talking about some random recording from years ago. This is Vance talking about his wife Usha, and basically saying he wishes she convert to Christianity. Yeah, you heard that right. The Vice President of the United States, talking publicly about hoping his Hindu wife will eventually see things his way when it comes to religion. Can you imagine? Can you believe this? Like, this is the kind of stuff you'd expect to see in a reality TV show. Not from someone who's supposed to be a heartbeat away from the presidency. And the timing? Come on, it's almost too perfect. The hug goes viral, the audio leaks, and suddenly everyone's asking the same question. Is JD Vance about to get divorced? Now let's be clear about something. Nobody knows for sure what's actually happening in Vance's marriage. But that's not really the point, is it? Because in politics, perception is reality. And right now, the perception is that the vice president's personal life is falling apart. His family values image? Shattered. His credibility as a MAGA leader? Under serious question. His chances in 2028? Well, let's just say they're not looking great. Not great at all. And this matters. Like, this really matters. Because JD Vance isn't just some random politician. He's the vice president. He's Trump's handpicked guy. He's supposed to be the future of the Republican Party, the next generation of conservative leadership. And now he's trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. The story gets even more interesting when you look at who's commenting on this. Former White House press secretary Jen Psaki went on air asking if Usha needs rescuing. MAGA commentators are calling Vance a chameleon. People on both sides of the political aisle are questioning his authenticity, his values, his judgment. And here's what really gets me. This is a guy who's built his entire political brand on traditional family values, strong marriages, conservative principles, the whole package. And now, in the span of like 2 days, that entire image is crumbling, all because of a hug and some audio that probably should have stayed private. It's like watching a building collapse in slow motion, and you can't look away. So yeah, we need to talk about this, because this isn't just gossip. This is about the future of the Republican Party, the future of the MAGA movement, and potentially the future of American politics. Because if Vance can't survive this scandal, what does that say about everyone else? What does it say about the movement he represents? What does it say about the standards we hold our leaders to? Let's break it all down. Alright, so before we get too deep into the drama, we need to understand something really important here. This isn't actually about whether JD Vance is getting divorced or not. I mean, sure, that's what everyone's talking about on social media. But the real story is so much bigger than one marriage or one viral photo. What we're watching right now is the complete collapse of a carefully crafted political image. And I'm going to explain exactly how it happened, why it matters, and what it means for everyone involved. Let's start with the audio, because this is where things get really uncomfortable. This is where the whole thing starts to unravel. In these leaked recordings, Vance is talking about his wife Usha, and he says something that on the surface might sound innocent. He says he hopes she'll eventually come to see Christianity the same way he does. But then he adds, and this is a direct quote, that it doesn't cause a problem for him if she doesn't. Now, here's what most people are missing. This isn't just about religion, it's about respect. It's about partnership. It's about understanding your spouse as a complete person. And when you publicly express that you're hoping your wife will change her fundamental beliefs, even if you say it doesn't bother you, what you're really saying is that you don't fully accept who she is right now. Think about that for a second. Really think about what that means. You're basically saying, I love you, but I'd love you more if you were different. That's the message being sent here, whether Vance realizes it or not. And Usha? She responded. She came out and said publicly that she has no plans to convert to Christianity. She talked about her family's Hindu traditions. She made it crystal clear that she's proud of her heritage. And good for her, honestly, because nobody should feel pressured to change their religion for anyone, not even the Vice President of the United States, not for political convenience, not for image, not for anything. Your faith, your beliefs, those are personal, those are sacred. And the fact that she stood up and defended herself, defended her identity, that takes courage, especially when you're married to someone in such a high-profile position, especially when you know millions of people are watching and judging every word you say. But here's where the political calculation comes in. JD Vance is part of the MAGA movement, and the MAGA movement, whether they admit it or not, has some pretty specific ideas about what an ideal American family looks like. And a Hindu wife who refuses to convert, that doesn't exactly fit the mold. So now Vance is caught in this impossible position. Does he double down on his comments and risk alienating his wife? Does he backtrack and risk looking weak to his base? There's no good answer here. Every option leads to problems. Every path forward has landmines. And then we've got the Erica Kirk situation. Let me be absolutely clear about something. There is zero evidence of anything inappropriate happening between Vance and Erica Kirk. Zero. But that doesn't matter in today's media environment because the photo exists. The hug happened. And when you combine that photo with the audio about his marriage, with the existing tensions, with everything else, people's imaginations run wild. They start connecting dots that may or may not actually connect. That New York Times author who predicted divorce and remarriage by 2026, they weren't basing that on inside information. They were reading the tea leaves, looking at the optics, and making a calculated prediction that they knew would get attention, and it worked. Because within hours, that prediction had been shared millions of times. It became its own news story. Media outlets started covering the prediction itself, and suddenly, whether it's true or not, almost doesn't matter, because it's out there in the zeitgeist. It's part of the conversation now. Now, let's talk about something that's getting buried in all the drama. JD Vance has a history here, and I don't mean with marriage specifically, I mean with saying things that come back to haunt him. There's previous controversy around comments he made about marriage and divorce, comments that a lot of people found pretty disturbing. And now, with all this new stuff coming out, people are going back and looking at those old statements with fresh eyes. They're digging through the archives, pulling up old interviews, finding patterns. And what they're seeing isn't great. They're seeing a pattern of someone who talks a big game about family values, but whose actual words and actions don't always line up with that image. They're seeing someone who might not practice what he preaches, and in politics, especially in Republican politics, where family values are supposed to be non-negotiable, that's a huge problem. That's the kind of thing that can end careers. The MAGA commentators are starting to turn on him, and that's significant, because these aren't liberals who were never going to support him anyway. These are people who should be his natural allies, people who should be defending him, and instead they're calling him a chameleon. They're questioning his authenticity. They're asking whether he really believes the things he says, or if he's just playing a character, if he's just saying whatever he thinks people want to hear in the moment. Jen Psaki's comments about Usha needing rescuing, that's strategic, because it forces the conversation into uncomfortable territory for conservatives. If they defend Vance, they have to defend someone who publicly expressed that his wife should change her religion. If they criticize him, they're breaking ranks with the vice president. Either way, it's a losing position. It's a trap, basically. And Psaki knows it. She's been in the game long enough to understand how these things work. And the social media reaction has been absolutely brutal. TikTok videos dissecting every frame of that hug. Twitter threads analyzing the body language. Instagram posts comparing this to other political scandals. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. And every new post, every new comment, every new share, it just makes the story bigger. It feeds the beast. The algorithm loves controversy, and this is controversy on steroids. Here's what really gets me though. The timing of all this. We're in November 2025. If Vance really is planning to run in 2028, and most people think he is, then this is happening at literally the worst possible time. He's got less than 3 years to rebuild his image before primary season starts. And right now, his image is in tatters. Think about what a presidential campaign looks like. Endless scrutiny. Every aspect of your life examined under a microscope. Your marriage, your family, your values, your consistency. And JD Vance is walking into that environment with this scandal hanging over his head. How does he even begin to address it? Does he ignore it and hope it goes away? Does he confront it head on? Does he try to change the subject? None of those options are good. Because this story has legs. It's not going away. The audio exists. The photos exist. The reactions exist. And in the age of the internet, nothing ever really disappears. This will follow him for the rest of his political career. It'll be in his obituary someday. That's how permanent this is. And let's talk about Trump for a second. Because Trump picked Vance. Trump vouched for him. Trump made him vice president. So when Vance's reputation takes a hit, that reflects on Trump too. And Trump does not like looking bad. He does not like being associated with people who become liabilities. So you have to wonder, what's Trump thinking right now? Is he standing by his guy? Is he distancing himself? Is he already thinking about damage control? Is he making phone calls behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to minimize the fallout? Because you know Trump is watching this. You know he's got opinions. And when Trump has opinions, they tend to become public pretty quickly. The whole thing is just, it's messy, really messy. And it's playing out in real time for everyone to see. There's no putting this genie back in the bottle. The narrative has been set. JD Vance's personal life is a mess. His marriage is under scrutiny. His values are being questioned. And his political future? Well, that's the big question mark. That's what everyone's trying to figure out right now. Okay? So, let's break down exactly what this means, because we've covered the drama, we've covered the background. Now we need to talk about the actual consequences. What happens next? Who wins? Who loses? And what does this tell us about politics in 2025? First point, JD Vance's presidential ambitions just took a massive hit. Like maybe not fatal, but definitely serious. Think about it. Every Republican primary voter who cares about family values, which is basically all of them, now has to reconcile this scandal with the idea of voting for Vance. Some will give him a pass, some won't, but all of them will remember it. It's going to be in the back of their minds when they're standing in that voting booth. And his opponents in 2028, they're taking notes, they're saving screenshots, they're bookmarking articles, because you better believe this will come up in debates. You better believe it'll show up in attack ads. Someone's going to stand on a stage and ask Vance, point blank, do you respect your wife's religion or not? And whatever he says is going to be used against him. There's no winning answer to that question, given the context of everything that's happened. The second point is about the MAGA movement itself, because here's the uncomfortable truth. The MAGA movement has always had this tension between its stated values and its actual behavior. They talk about family values, but they overlook Trump's multiple marriages. They talk about Christian principles, but they embrace leaders whose personal lives don't reflect those principles. And with Vance, that tension is exploding into public view, and you're starting to see cracks form. Conservative commentators who would normally defend anyone with an R next to their name, they're hesitating, they're asking questions, they're expressing concerns, because defending Vance means defending someone who openly said he wants his wife to change her religion. And that's a tough sell even for the most loyal MAGA supporters, even for people who would normally circle the wagons and protect their own. This one's just too messy, too uncomfortable, too public. Here's the third thing. This story is perfect ammunition for Democrats, and they know it. They're already using it. Jen Psaki's comments were just the beginning. You're going to see this brought up constantly. Every time Republicans talk about family values, Democrats are going to point at JD Vance. Every time they talk about respecting women, there's going to be a reference to Usha in the audio. It's political gold for the opposition. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And the thing is, Vance can't really fight back effectively because the audio is real. The comments are real. His own words are being used against him. He can try to provide context. He can try to explain what he meant, but the damage is done. The narrative is set. And in politics, once the narrative is set, it's almost impossible to change. You can spend years trying to rehabilitate your image, and that one thing will still follow you around. That's just how it works. The fourth point, and this is crucial, is about trust. Because political scandals aren't really about the specific incident. They're about what the incident reveals about someone's character. And what this reveals about Vance is that there might be a gap between his public persona and his private reality. That he might not be as solid on these family value issues as he claims to be. And voters care about authenticity. They really do. They'll forgive a lot of things if they think you're being genuine. But if they think you're fake, if they think you're putting on an act, that's much harder to come back from. And right now, a lot of people are questioning whether the real JD Vance matches up with the political JD Vance. They're wondering if they ever really knew him at all, if the whole thing was just a carefully constructed facade. Now, let's talk about what happens in the short term. Because Vance is still the vice president. He still has a job to do. And this scandal is now hanging over everything he does. Every speech he gives, people will be thinking about the audio. Every event he attends with Usha, people will be watching their body language. Every interview he does, reporters are going to try to ask about it. He basically has two options. Option 1, address it head on. Do a big interview. Bring Usha. Talk about their marriage. Try to clear the air. But that's risky because it keeps the story alive and gives it even more attention. It makes it the only thing people are talking about for another week or two. Option 2, ignore it completely. Don't respond to questions. Don't acknowledge the controversy. Just try to move on and hope people forget. But that's risky too, because it makes him look like he's hiding something, like he doesn't have a good answer. There's no good play here. And that's exactly the position his political opponents want him in. Damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking on his political future. Every day that goes by without resolution is another day of damage. Here's what I think happens next. The immediate frenzy will die down eventually. Something else will dominate the news cycle. Maybe another scandal. Maybe a major policy announcement. Maybe some international crisis. But the damage will linger. This will become part of Vance's permanent record. Part of his Wikipedia page. Part of the first paragraph of any profile written about him. It's not going away. And when 2028 rolls around, if Vance does decide to run, this will absolutely come up. His opponents will use it. The media will reference it. Voters will remember it. And he'll have to have better answers than he has right now. He'll need a strategy, a plan, something more sophisticated than just hoping it blows over. The bigger question though, and this is what really keeps me up at night, is what this says about modern politics. Because we're living in an era where your entire life is subject to public scrutiny, where a single photo can derail a career, where leaked audio can destroy a reputation, and where social media amplifies everything to an insane degree. One moment of bad judgment, one poorly phrased statement, one awkward hug, and boom, your career is in jeopardy. Is that fair? I don't know. Is it reality? Absolutely. And politicians, like JD Vance, better understand that reality, or they're going to keep getting burned by it. They need to adapt to the fact that privacy doesn't really exist anymore. That everything they say and do can and will be recorded, shared, analyzed, and weaponized. So here's the bottom line. JD Vance is in serious trouble. His carefully crafted image is crumbling. His political future is uncertain. And his marriage, which should be private, is now being discussed by millions of people online. Whether he deserves all this scrutiny or not, he's getting it. And how he handles it over the next few months will determine whether he has any chance in 2028. Because right now, it's not looking great. The MAGA base is questioning him. Democrats are attacking him. The media is feasting on the story. And the internet, well, the internet never forgets. Every tweet, every post, every comment is archived somewhere. It's all permanent. This is just the beginning, folks. Trust me, there's more coming. There's always more coming. And I'll be here to break it all down for you. Because if politics has taught us anything, it's that things can always get crazier. And with JD Vance, I have a feeling they're about to. The next few weeks are going to be wild. The next few months even wilder. And by the time we get to 2028, who knows where we'll be. But one thing's for sure, this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. Stay tuned.